In section 4.5, we're going to do more of using the slope-intercept form as far as the lines go. There's going to be some easy ways to do this one, or some of these questions. Like here, it's giving us a graph, and it's asking us to find the slope, which is m, and the b. So, instead of using the formula, you can make it a little bit easier on some of these, where you find 2 points where it's exactly on the crosses. So here at 0, -8, and here at 8, 0. They're exactly on the crosshairs here. So we can use those 2 points. We could also use this point every time that's on the crosshairs. So I'm just going to do this first one here, because as we see, it's on 2, -6. So we went first, we're going to count how many it goes up. It goes up from -8 to -6, so that's 2, and it went over 2. So 2 divided by 2, that equals 1. So our slope here is 1, and our b, all we have to do is look at the graph and see that it hits at -8. So we're going to put -8 for b, and we got that right. So this one's the same thing. See how it's going down though, so you're going to have a negative slope. Okay, so for here, it's pretty much the same thing, except now it's asking us for the equation. So we're going to have to put, I'm just going to put the beginning of it first, y equals, and now we have to find what the slope is. So the 2 points that I'm going to look at are here at 0, 5, and then I'm going to go all the way to this one because it's where it actually hits the crosshair. Notice on all these before, it doesn't. So what I'm going to do is it's going to go down 1, so it's going to be 1 over, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's down 1, so that means it's negative. And I'm going to put this in parentheses. 1 divided by 4. And then we put our x. And we see that it crosses at +5. So I'm just going to put +5. Okay, this question actually has a few. So here, what do we see? Okay, first I'm going to put the y equals, just to make it easy. Okay, so y equals. And we see that it's a horizontal line. So what did we say about those? It means there's 0x, so we don't need to put any x on there because our slope is 0, and we're just going to put -5. So y equals -5. Some people will put the 0x -5 if you want to do that. I don't think the program will mark you wrong. If you did it on paper, depending on the teacher, you may get it wrong. I wouldn't mark you wrong if you're in my class. So this next one, I'm going to start with y equals, and we see that's going down, so we know that it's going to have a negative slope. So I'm going to go ahead and just put my negative sign. And we see, here's a point where it hits the crosshairs, and another one right here at 5, 1. So it went down 1, so I'm going to put 1 divided by, and it went over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1 over 5, close the parentheses, x, and it crossed at +2. So -1/5 x plus 2. Here, on this next one, we have a vertical line. So we don't have an x, or we don't have a y. It's just going to be x equals something. So I'm going to put x equals, and it's right on the y-axis, which is x equals 0. So I'm just going to put x equals 0. Alright, here we do have a y equals, and it's going to be a positive slope. Here's a point at 0, -4, and here's one Actually, I'm going to go to this first one because it's at 1 comma -2. So those are the 2 points I'm going to do. And it's going up 1, 2, and it's going over 1. So I just need to put a 2 and then the x. And we see that it's at -4, so I'm going to put -4. And those are all of the questions for this problem. And we got all of those right. So another type, next one's going to be the same type of question. Now here, we're given the equation y equals 1 over 3 x minus 1. Notice I didn't say 1/3. I said 1 over 3. The reason I say that this way is because it makes it easier to remember what the slope is as y over x when you say it that way. So the first thing we're going to do here is go to our y-intercept, which is our b, which in this case is -1. So I'm going to go here, hit the line tool, and I'm going to go to where y equals -1. I'm going to hit the mouse. So now I need to go to where I need to. So from where the y-intercept is, first we're going to go up 1 and then over to the right 3. So up 1 and 1, 2, 3. Notice I didn't start from the origin when I went to find what the next point was. Always start at the y-intercept because it makes it a lot easier to do so. So these are the 2 points. And we can check. Looks like we got it right. It's going in the right direction because it's positive. And we got that one right. Okay, so. Alright, this next one, it has a whole bunch of things here. We have to find the slope and the vertical intercept, which is just the y-intercept. So, this one looks like it may be confusing because it has -8 plus 2/3 x. Remember that for the commutative property, we can rearrange, we can just switch back and forth when we're adding. So this is actually 2 over 3 is the slope, whatever number is in front of the slope. And it is positive, so we're going to have that. And the vertical intercept is just going to be a -8. Okay, so for this next one, or I'm going to skip this one right now. Go to x equals 7 over 6. So remember, when we have no y, our slope is going to be dne, and our x is at 7 over 6, so it's not ever going to cross the y axis, so that also is going to be dne. Okay, this one we have y equals -1 over 5. So we don't have any x here, so that means our slope, we have 0 x's, so our slope is 0, and it's going to cross right where y is at -1 over 5. Okay, this next one, we have y equals 10x, and we could write this as y equals 10x plus 0. So the number in front of the x is 10, so that means our slope is 10, and it said, we just said plus 0, so our vertical intercept is 0. If you remember from a previous section, when we didn't have anything, we just had y equals something x, the only intercept we had was 0, 0. So now we have this one. 7y minus 8x equals 24. So what we have to do is solve for y. So the first thing I'm going to do is add the 8x to both sides. When I do that, I'm going to have 7y equals 8x plus 24. Now I have to divide both sides by 7. When I do that, I'll have y all by itself. That's what you need when you're wanting to find the slope-intercept form. So 8 divided by 7 is just 8 over 7. So that's going to be the slope. 8 divided by 7. And our intercept, we still have a plus 24, so it's going to be 24 over 7. That can't divide anywhere, so I'm just going to put 24 over 7. Oh, what do I need to do? Oh, okay, so what did I do wrong here? I got most of these intercepts wrong. So read the directions here. Write DNE if a slope, it says write your intercepts as ordered pairs. So this is a time when you do have to put ordered pairs. So I'm going to change all of these. 0, comma, -8. Change this one to 0, comma, 24 over 7. And see, here's something that I could have done. When I was typing it in, it says invalid notation. Pay attention to things like this. This is a common mistake that people make when doing these, and then they wonder, what am I doing wrong? The program is kind of tricky with stuff like this. Honestly, in most classes, if you just put the y-intercept or even vertical intercept as just what the y term is, you're going to get it right. I wanted to do it like this so I can show you that it's really picky on these. Even though I got, as you see, I got them all right now. Even though I got what the actual intercept was correct, I have to put it in the right form. Okay, so this next question here, it's a word problem, and it says a phone company charges for service according to the formula C of n equals 19 plus 0.06 n, where n is the number of minutes talked and C of n is the monthly charge in dollars. So it's asking for the rate of change. The rate of change is always what the slope is. So it's going to be 0.06, and the initial value, that's where n equals 0, is going to be 19. So it's just asking you, really, the rate of change is always the slope. The initial value is your b. But it's also asking you for the units. Remember, okay, so I'm going to do the initial value one first. And it says here that the C of n, which is the y, is dollars. So I'm going to scroll down here and put dollars. Now this next one, the rate is going to be something per. And whatever it is per, it's y over y per x. In this case, C of n per n. C of n is dollars, n is the minutes. So dollars per minute. All right. The rest of the questions in this section are going to be about if lines are parallel or perpendicular. Parallel, and the symbol for that is 2 bars like this, means that the slopes are equal. Parallel lines go in the exact same direction as each other and they'll never touch. Perpendicular which is this symbol, means that the slopes are at a 90-degree angle to each other. So they're like a perfect square. And the slopes are going to be opposite reciprocals. So what that means is if one slope is 1/2, the reciprocal of that is 2 over 1, but we also have to do the opposite sign, so it's going to be -2. If the slope was first slope was -3 over 7, then perpendicular becomes positive, and we flip the fraction to be 7 over 3. And if the slope is, say, 4, the opposite of that is 1 over 4. So a few examples of the types of questions that you're going to get for these are, they're going to give you two equations of two lines, and you have to say whether they are perpendicular, parallel, or neither. And neither means that the slopes are not opposite and reciprocals. They could be reciprocals, but not opposite signs. They could be opposite signs, but not reciprocals, or they could just be completely different. So the first one I'm going to do is y equals negative 1 over 6x and y equals 1 minus 1 over 6x. So this one's really easy. We just have to look at what's in front of the x. Here it's negative 1 over 6. Here it's negative 1 over 6. That means these two lines are parallel. Next, let's say that we have x plus y equals 17 and y equals x plus 14. Okay, here what we have to do, we have to solve for y. So this one is already done for us. So for this one, we have to subtract the x from both sides. And that's going to give us y equals negative x plus 17. Now remember, okay, so we do have opposite signs now. This is a 1. This is negative 1. 1. This is actually 1 over 1. And this is negative 1 over 1 when we flip it. So these two are perpendicular. Next, let's say that we have 2y minus 2x equals 28 and x plus y equals 17. Okay, so this one is a little bit more. So let's we have to solve for y for both of these. So here I'm going to add the 2x. So 2y equals 2x plus 28. Divide everything by 2. We're going to get y equals x plus 14. This is basically what I did before, but it's a little bit more to it. Here I need to subtract the x. So y equals negative x plus 17. Okay, so this is back to where I had it just before. It's just that I put more steps to begin with. I ended up still with y equals x plus 14 and y equals negative x plus 17. Those are opposite reciprocals, so it's perpendicular. Okay, then it's going to give you a point. Let's say negative 2 comma negative 4. And it's going to want you to do an equation where it is parallel to negative x minus 6y equals 6. Okay, so and it's also going to say to put it in what's called point slope form. And I'm going to show you that in a minute, but first I'm going to solve for y here. So the first thing I need to do is add the x. So I'll have negative 6y equals x plus 6. Divide everything by a negative 6. And I have y equals negative 1 over 6 minus 1. 1 over 6x minus 1. So parallel means that I need to find the slope of negative 1 over 6 that also has this point, negative 2 comma negative 4. And it says to leave it as the point slope form. The point slope form is y minus y1 equals m, which is the slope, and then in parentheses x minus x1. x1 and y1 are just what's here, the point that we're doing. And we have our slope as negative 1 over 6. So I'm going to put y, and it's minus negative 4. I'll go ahead and put that like this. Equals slope negative 1 over 6. and then x minus negative 2. Now I do have to work through the minus here. So this becomes y plus 4 equals negative 1 over 6 in parentheses x negative of negative 2 is plus 2. And this is how you're going to leave it. Y plus 4 equals negative 1 over 6 in parentheses x plus 2. Leave it in this form because that's what it's asking for.